This is the Capitol Rundown.
The next race for governor is 4 years away. It's over 1,100 days. And so this is really a first in Michigan political history.
But here's my promise to you. I will walk with you even as I work for you.
I don't want any of you to stop believing in America. I want you to believe in America.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Thompson. With the midterm elections several weeks in our rear view, this week, the final seat for the U.S. Senate was just decided. And here in Michigan, the Board of Canvassers certified the vote. There was also a recount this week, even though Proposal 2, which dealt with voting rights, passed by about 900,000 votes, and Proposal 3, which dealt with reproductive rights, passed by nearly 600,000. Ballots are being recounted. The Board of Canvassers met again this week to approve that recount by a vote of 3-0. They're doing it at the request of a group that says it's not looking to overturn any results, rather be on the lookout for any potential election fraud or mistakes. And while this is only a partial recount and won't change the outcome of the election, the chair of the board said the group had no choice but to go along with the request.
I appreciate your point. I think it's well reasoned and well taken, but ultimately we don't have the authority as it's been laid out by our council to reject this.
Well, that group calling for the recall says the outcome may have been affected by what it claims were illegal configurations and lack of ballot machine certification. The executive director of that group, Election Integrity Force, says their concerns about irregularities are worth the taxpayer cost of the recounts. But supporters of the initiatives and critics of the recount say they're concerned this will encourage further conspiracies.
Elections were fair and transparent, and our citizens didn't have questions about what was going on in this election, we wouldn't need to do this.
I think, though, that what is disheartening is that the individuals that are seeking this recount continue to believe that the parts of the law and elections that they don't understand are errors and fraud.
Well, the recount's expected to take a couple of weeks, but Ingham County didn't waste any time. Poll workers got right to work this week, double-checking the vote on Proposal 3. That's even though County Clerk Barb Byram calls it, quote, a waste of time and taxpayer dollars, and says that, quote, those that spread disinformation will try to exploit this process to initiate illegal investigations and attempt backdoor audits. Well, still ahead, a big week at the U.S. Supreme Court. We'll tell you about the cases justices heard and how their decisions could affect everything from civil rights to voting rights. That's when the Capitol Rundown returns. Well, it's been a busy week at the U.S. Supreme Court. One of the cases they heard puts the future of elections up for debate. Wednesday's Supreme Court case could determine whether state lawmakers have sole power over the election process. Right now, state courts can weigh in, and supporters say state court involvement is crucial to ensuring fair elections. But North Carolina Republicans argue the Constitution gives state legislatures sole control of the election process.
At the end of the day, it shouldn't be up to judges or bureaucrats. It should be up to the people through their elected representatives in the legislature.
What it would do is allow state legislators to change the outcome of elections. It would make them kind of the supreme powers.
The Supreme Court also heard arguments in another clash between LGBTQ rights and business owners. The case involves a Colorado website designer who says creating pages for same-sex weddings conflicts with her religious beliefs. Nicole D'Antonio is here for you now with the latest from the court.
The Supreme Court took up another case pitting free speech against gay rights. At issue, whether artists and designers can be forced to state things at odds with their personal beliefs.
The state forces Ms. Smith to create speech, not simply sell it.
Colorado state law bars businesses from discriminating based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, and other grounds.
The company just cannot refuse to serve gay couples, as it seeks to do here, just as the Christmas store cannot announce no Jews allowed.
The case is a preemptive strike from Colorado graphic designer Lori Smith, who hasn't yet launched a wedding website business.
I know that the freedom I'm standing for is not just for me.
Her attorney argued that Smith is an artist and, unlike other vendors, is protected by free speech.
The person providing the chairs isn't providing speech.
Several justices engaged in hypotheticals.
How about people who don't believe in interracial marriage? Or about people who don't believe that disabled people should get married?
Suppose someone offers the service of writing customized wedding vows. Can they be forced to write vows or speeches that espouse things they loathe?
The now conservative majority court has been receptive to claims of religious freedom, but the panel in 2018 made a plea for civility that future cases like these would have to be resolved with tolerance on both sides. That warning came with a narrow ruling in favor of a Colorado baker who refused to make wedding cakes for same-sex couples.
Because the biblical teaching on marriage is pretty clear.
The justices in that case refrained from deciding on the larger First Amendment issue. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Washington.
Well, questions about religious freedom and discrimination against the gay and lesbian community is also headed to court here in Michigan. That's after a Mid-Michigan Catholic church filed suit against the state. St. Joseph Church in St. John's claims its constitutional rights could be violated. The Michigan Supreme Court ruled in July that sexual orientation and gender identity are protected under the state's civil rights law. The church says those protections could prevent its school from teaching according to their faith when it comes to religious teachings about gender, sex, and sexuality.
We're just asking for clarity on the law. We want to make sure that the school can continue to operate just as it has for nearly a century now.
Well, officials at the Attorney General's office say they can't comment because they have yet to receive a copy of that lawsuit. But Attorney General Dana Nessel said earlier this year the term sex goes beyond male or female and that people in Michigan who identify as LGBT should be protected. Well, coming up, it's been another interesting week in Michigan politics. We'll talk about the battles brewing in the Michigan Republican Party. That and much more coming up next. Stay with us. The Michigan Republican Party was dealt a stunning setback last month in the midterm elections. It lost all of the races for top state positions, both chambers of the state legislature, and even the majority of Michigan's congressional delegation. Now there's a civil war brewing within the party, which led one Republican lawmaker to tell our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic that the GOP needs to reinvent itself.
I think the party in a sad sort of way has to burn itself down so that we can rebuild it.
The Michigan Republican Party for the moment is under the indirect control of former President Donald Trump, who is watching along with everybody else this unfolding civil war between his supporters and those, like soon-to-be former Representative O'Malley, who think the party is headed in the wrong direction. Mr. O'Malley got caught in the abortion controversy in the last election, which dominated the campaign debate from the top of the ticket on down. A pro-life Catholic all of his life, Mr. O'Malley ran into fellow Republicans on the campaign trail, unhappy that women were losing their right to choose on the abortion issue.
When I had a 50-ish-year-old Republican woman tell me that after the Supreme Court came along, she felt like a second-class citizen, that tells me something.
So the representative modified his pro-life stance to allow choice, and as a result, Michigan Right to Life immediately yanked its endorsement. It may have cost him the election. Mr. O'Malley argues it's time for the state Republican Party to open the tent to more diverse opinions. And the idea of voting against somebody because you disagree with him or her on just one issue is wrong.
We agree on 80-90% of the things, but if you're going to vote against me or not for anybody because of one issue, that's where you need to broaden your horizons a little bit and understand the game is bigger than that.
But most of the Republicans running for state party chair do not want to change.
Are you fed up with your party?
I'm fed up with a big chunk of my party.
But he also knows there's a big chunk of the party that's unhappy with him, calling for reforms, including a different message on abortion. Does that message need to be changed, he was asked?
Hell yes.
And with that, he'll retire at the end of the year. Here for you in Lansing, Tim Skubic, 6 News.
Well, speaking of the Michigan Republican Party, a former ambassador and congressman is giving up his bid to be the next head of it. Pete Hoekstra, who was exploring a run to chair the party, says he gave that idea up when his closest friends asked if he really wanted to go through with it. There are still plenty of people who are interested in that job, though. Former Attorney General candidate Matt DePerno says he's in, along with Secretary of State candidate Christina Caramo and former congressional candidate Lena Epstein. Former gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon says she's thinking about running for that spot as well. Well, Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic has been keeping a close eye on everything happening within the GOP and all other things political. He sat down with Jorma Duran to talk about a couple of other things that did and didn't happen this week.
It's time to get updated politically here in the state of Michigan, and nobody better than this guy right here, Tim Skubic, to help us out. Tim, it's been a while since I've spoken to you. I've heard some information regarding Kevin Rinke. He's the one that got beat by Tudor Dixon to get the nomination for the Republican Party for governor. I've heard that he's going to maybe run for governor again. What do you know?
You heard correctly,
Nice.
and you heard first right here, as you know. This is a fascinating story, just for the sake of discussion. The next race for governor is 4 years away. It's over 1,100 days. And so this is really a first in Michigan political history. We have a former candidate for governor who really thought he should have gotten the nomination if Donald Trump had not endorsed Tudor Dixon. Kevin Rinke thinks he would have got the nomination. In fact, the week before, the polling data said he would. Is now looking at the possibility of running again. He walked right up to the line of saying, yeah, I'm running for governor, but he didn't cross the line. Basically, what he said is that, yes, I am interested in running for governor. I need to put together an organization. There are many things to look at before a final decision is made, and it will be based on the feedback that he gets from the voters as he now begins a 4-year possible journey to become the governor of the state.
Let's talk about, and I've never heard this before, maybe it's called a lame duck session, because there's not much action going on at the Capitol, at least until probably next year.
As it turned out, our lame duck session, they didn't do a heck of a lot. Some cats and dogs bills were passed. Those are things that really don't amount to, that we wouldn't want to waste the viewers' time talking about. There was the potential to do an extra budget bill for some spending on some projects in the UP, and the Republicans went into the holidays blaming the governor for, quote, reneging on the deal. Her office said there never was a deal, so how can you renege on it? And so they ended the holiday season on a sour note, which is a precursor for things to come in the new year when Democrats are in control. We don't know, but we do know this, that the lame duck thing limped into the history books with very few noteworthy issues that they actually dealt with.
All right, thanks, guys. Well, next year on the Rundown, it was another crazy week in Washington as well. Democrats picked up their 51st Senate seat for a couple of days anyway, but now their majority is up in the air. Stay tuned, the Capitol Rundown. We'll be right back. After a high-profile runoff race in Georgia, Democrats won a slim majority in the U.S. Senate. Senator Raphael Warnock celebrated his re-election with supporters this week after squeaking out a narrow victory over Republican challenger Herschel Walker. The Democratic incumbent locked in a 6-year term bolstered by strong turnout in early voting and on Election Day, doing well with African Americans and more educated voters. Walker was former President Donald Trump's hand-picked candidate. Both of them have spoken out since those results came in.
Work that we must do is difficult. The issues are not simple, they're complex. But here's my promise to you, I will walk with you even as I work for you.
I don't want any of you to stop believing in America. I want you to believe in America and continue to believe in the Constitution and believe in our elected officials most of all. Continue to pray for them.
But the Democrat celebration didn't last long. 2 days after Warnock gave them their 51st vote, one of their senators left the party. Kyrsten Sinema shocked the political world on Friday when she announced she was becoming an independent. She says she's, quote, declaring my independence from the broken partisan system in Washington. Sinema says she will not caucus with Republicans, though, which means Democrats will keep a 50-49 edge. Sinema, who's up for re-election in 2024, has not said whether or not she plans to seek another term. Well, we spend a lot of time talking about the executive and legislative branches of government, but the judicial branch made some big decisions in Michigan and on the national stage as well. We'll be right back with those details. We learned this week that 5 more men are headed for trial on charges involving a foiled plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. 4 men from Michigan are accused of providing material support for terrorist acts, along with a gun crime. Brian Higgins of Wisconsin was also charged. A judge ruled that there was enough evidence to justify going to trial. It will take place in Antrim County, where Whitmer's vacation home is located, and where prosecutors say the suspects plan to kidnap the governor. Prosecutors say 4 of the defendants scouted the house, and there was talk of blowing up a bridge to keep police from responding. 14 people have now been arrested and charged as part of this plot. In other big legal news this week, the Trump Organization says it plans to appeal a jury verdict that found the company guilty of 17 criminal charges, including tax fraud. Now, Trump was not personally charged in this case and denies wrongdoing, but prosecutors allege he signed off on years of criminal activity, including a variety of perks provided off the books. The maximum penalty is $1.6 million, which the Trump Organization can certainly afford. But CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleiman says the verdict continues to cost Trump his reputation.
This is the first time that the dam has been broken. We have looked at civil suits against Donald Trump and his business dealings, as well as personal civil suits. But this is the first time there is a criminal conviction of the Trump Organization, not of Donald Trump personally. But when you have 17 counts that really show a quick jury verdict, so the evidence had to be overwhelming to this jury, of 15 years of massive, widespread tax fraud in the culture of the company, that is serious indeed.
Well, if you're interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, we have just the thing for you. You can sign up for our Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just 1 email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone camera at the screen right now. It will take you to the sign up page, or you can head to WLNS.com/newsletters. Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown. We hope to see you again next weekend.